A prequel to one of the most successful and beloved Disney Pixar adventures finally hits the big screen. Hello to everyone watching, and thank you once again for tuning into both ReelScreenReviews.com and WeLiveFilm.com. I am, of course, movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and our next movie review is Monsters University. This animated family adventure opened in wide release on June 21st, 2013, and it reunites the voice talents of Billy Crystal, John Goodman, Jennifer Tilly, and Steve Buscemi. This newest Monsters story comes to us from director Dan Scanlon, a veteran in the world of animation, directing the likes of Tracy and the video short Mater and the Ghost Light. He now inherits the reins of one of the most known and loved Disney franchises, and he hopes to follow in the success that the original set almost 12 years ago. This tale looks at the bonding friendship between Mike and Sully during their early years while learning how to scare at the University of Fear. It seems that Sully and Mike were not always the best of friends and encountered many rough times early in their youth. This rocky start begins in college and lasts for quite a duration of time before our guys put their differences aside and become good friends. Well, people, I have never been a huge fan of the first Monsters movie, and I feel that this one is right on par with the previous installment. Monsters University is not a great film by any means, but it's not a terrible movie either. This is an okay movie that will surely resonate with little ones, but the magic for adults is almost non-existent. This film looks amazing, but once again, I'm not at an art gallery looking at still images, so to me, it very much comes up short. Where Pixar films used to be laced with themes, lessons, and almost real-life humor for adults, well, these qualities have now been replaced with colorful backdrops and jokes so basic that only 3-year-olds will find them amusing. When going over my notes for Monsters University, I realized that I had about as many positive issues as I did negative issues, but the positive issues were all for light fun and the negative issues were all for technical filmmaking. Now I will start with some of the positives, and a good place to begin with is how visually spectacular this film is. The 3D was amazing, and the fur, the scales, and other skin textures are now so crystal clear that they have almost become realistic. And speaking of Crystal, Billy Crystal was absolutely awesome, and his personality was just made for voiceover Disney work. This film also pokes a lot of fun at college and college life. Monsters University also made me think about my own college life when I was usually under the influence of something and something else, and I kept thinking that if I was back in my heyday of college haze, that watching this film alone would be a real treat. There's also an arch-looking monster that was just great fun, and the 3 writers also managed to put a twist near the end that adds credit to the movie and plotline. Monsters University definitely hits the target audience, and along the way tries to connect the dots leading into its predecessor, which, by the way, is actually its sequel. Okay, like I said, this film does look great, but so did Oblivion, After Earth, and Epic, and all of these movies fail on many levels outside of visually. My first and biggest problem is how Pixar has fallen a few rungs down on the ladder in the last few years. They remind me a lot of the television show American Idol, and that's because they have just tumbled from the pinnacle status that they once held so exclusively. I think back to the depth of the story of the films like Up, The Incredibles, and Wall-E, and that strong storyline is missing here, just like it was missing in Cars 2. Monsters University unfortunately doesn't continue to move the characters or the story forward, but instead gives us a throw-together origin tale. This was just an easily contrived plot that is nothing special, and compared to the exquisite Toy Story 3, this is just anorexic storytelling. Then the entire film just seemed much the same as its predecessor, and to me it's like I was just once again revisiting jokes with very familiar punchlines. In the movies of the past, Pixar put everything they had into these films, and now it's as if they're just putting them together to be in the summer movie lineup. Throughout Monsters University, whenever it tried any kind of adult plot line, for example, Sully and Mike believing that they're never going to get this scare thing correct, the entire film just suffers. It suffers because these situations are not complex enough for adults to be entertained by them, and at the same time, they are not basic enough for the target audience to appreciate. At 1 hour and 50 minutes, Monsters University was not only 15 minutes too long, but this was the second time in 3 tries that Pixar has come up short. Now, this is nowhere near as bad as Cars 2, but this is yet another stumbling block from the once untouchable studio known as Pixar. Nobody is infallible, and in the last few years, even Pixar has proven this true. This film is forgettable and very late. lame before it is ever fun, satisfying, and original. The kids will love this one, but for those of us that were born when the first one came out, disappointment is probably waiting for you. In my opinion, between this and Epic, neither of these animated blockbusters ever lives up to that title, but this one is better than Epic. Nick's Real Screen Review is a generous 2 stars out of 4, and that's for the return of Mike and Sully in Monsters University. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time that I have today, and thank you so much for stopping by. If you have enjoyed this review, please click like below and give me a thumbs up, or subscribe to either or both We Live Film or Real Screen Reviews if you haven't yet already. I'm sure that I'll be returning soon enough with more movie and trailer reviews, and until next time, people, this is Nick Iacobucci saying I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies, and thank you for your attention.